This is Sunday night. Hello, I'm Alex Cullen, filling in for Mel Doyle, who's on leave. Barely a week goes by when they're not in the news. African gangs running riot, terrorising, robbing, wreaking havoc. Yet we live in such politically correct times that police have been loath to admit there's even a problem. But there is. Just ask Melbourne widow Elaine French. She's been robbed by armed African criminals not once, but twice. Not surprisingly, Elaine is deeply traumatised, but she's also very angry and has bravely decided to speak out about these lawless thugs.
You can never understand unless you walk in my shoes or wear my baggy pants.
On the streets of Melbourne, groups of young African men like 29-year-old Tarit Cholbol have become a symbol of fear.
Don't criticize the way I am.
To many in Australia's most livable city,
Me and my mates, we smashed up the place, we smashed people. Someone got hurt.
these groups are dangerous, criminal gangs.
I had the gun at my head, the gun at my throat, the gun at my back.
But for a long time, despite irrefutable proof of the violence unleashed on communities, police denied African gangs even existed. African gangs, do they exist or not?
There's kids who are behaving like gangs. Some of them have committed serious offences through this method.
Serious crimes like home invasions, violent armed robberies, vicious assaults and lawless rampages. Many of these young criminals are from the war-torn African country of South Sudan. Do you admit that there is a crime problem involving people of African descent in this state?
Well, I don't think we should shy away from the fact that in terms of, proportion, they're overrepresented in crime. And some of them are behaving, in what we've seen, in really serious offending.
There was fights.
Yeah, fights everywhere. I got angry. Yeah. Took things into my own hands. Some people got hurt,
There are villains and there are victims. Melbourne widow Elaine French is a broken woman, traumatised by two horrific attacks on her and her workmates, both by armed young Sudanese men. Well, this has taken a big toll on you.
It's ruined my life. I don't have a life anymore. From being a very active woman, going to work, playing golf, going out and enjoying myself. I don't do any of that anymore.
Just before 11 a.m. on October 25, 2016, Elaine was working on the shop floor of this jewellery store in Melbourne's upmarket Toorak. She'd been their accountant for years and just loved working here.
I was doing my paperwork on the computer. The lady that makes the jewellery, she went out to get some coffees. She walked out of the door, bought the coffees and came back in. And as she came in, these men followed her. I had my head down into the computer, and the next thing I knew was this, like a monster he was, with dark clothes on and the mask across his face and the gun at my head. And he said, "Take me to the safe." And I was dumbfounded. I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. And he's pushed the gun here into my throat. And he said, "If you don't move, I'll kill you dead." So I thought, well, I've got to act calm. And I stood up, walked towards the safe, and he had the gun then in my back.
In seconds, the job that had brought Elaine so much satisfaction became a place of fear and dread.
The gun at my head, terrible. Nobody knows what it's like. I panicked. I ran upstairs, got under the desk in the office upstairs.
As Elaine cowered in the office, the shop manager, Stephen, confronted the armed attackers. And in these extraordinary moments of bravery, he shouted at them to stop and shoved them out onto the street.
Then I could hear Stephen screaming. And Stephen pushed them out the door and locked the door.
Having had a gun to your head, told you were going to die, what has that done to you, Elaine?
Well, I feel as though I am dead, but I'm just a shell of a person.
Elaine was off work for 11 weeks. She decided to return, but just part-time. 3 hours into her first shift, all Elaine's fears came rushing back.
I was out in the back office and I said, Stephen, look, here they are again.
Suddenly, in the shop's closed-circuit video, Elaine could see a gang of thieves. This time, when the manager confronts them, he's struck over the head.
I was beside myself. I couldn't help Stephen, and that's where I felt awful. Because I thought if he hit me, I'd be dead. I could see Stephen was bleeding behind the ear. I said, oh, please God help me.
A year later, and Elaine is still badly traumatised from not one, but 2 shocking attacks, less than 3 months apart.
As I said, I don't have any life. These 4 walls is where I live.
Why is that, Elaine?
Well, I'm too nervy. Too nervy. I mean, you know, I can't go to a shopping centre because if I ran into a coloured person, I'd be having a panic attack again. It's just not easy, even going for a walk.
Elaine was once a keen traveller, saw the world and mixed with all the different people in it. But now she's angry at the young African men who attacked her in this shop. What would be a just punishment in your eyes?
To be deported back to where they come from.
No questions asked?
That's not only my opinion, that's anybody I speak to, they all say the same thing.
What infuriates so many people, like Elaine, who say they are living in fear, is that for far too long, police and politicians have refused to acknowledge that African gangs even existed, let alone were responsible for an alarming surge in violent crime. Are they gangs in your eyes, Elaine?
Well, I mean, 5 people coming into your shop at a time, what would you call that? To me, it's a gang, isn't it?
Why are police so reluctant to call them gangs?
Well, I think we call it for what it is. I don't think we want to actually give these young people any additional notoriety or any additional, kudos for something.
Whether or not police want to use the word gang, after a string of bashings, riots and armed robberies, it's clear who they are targeting, with a new operation called Task Force Wayward.
We want you pulling over cars, speaking to people and being actively in the community. So cars that pass and see you, they're actually seeing the police doing what they expect the police to do. Yep.
It's late on a Saturday night at Sunshine Police Station in Melbourne's western suburbs. I'm heading out with Senior Sergeant Brett Khan, who is leading the crackdown on Melbourne's youth crime.
Police! Yeah. Come to the door.
Part of their job is keeping a tight rein on offenders who are out on bail and under strict court-ordered curfews.
Hey, how are you?
They must stay home with their families at night.
Good to see you home, mate. All right, good on you.
So, Brett, there's a success right there. He's home.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good.
There is no chance that he would have been home at this time on a Saturday night before there was any intervention.
Really?
No chance.
Yeah. In 2 homes, the teenage boys are where they should be.
There you go. You're home. Yeah. Good to see. We're having a lot of luck tonight.
But in the next suburb, 1 young offender's gone missing. So he's been in trouble before? But
Absolutely, he has been. He's done high victim crime. He's been involved in crimes, armed robberies. Good morning, how are you?
And in this home, a dangerous young offender has snuck out and his parents have no idea where he is.
Not home? OK. He knows he has to be here at nights. He has to be home at night. Yeah. Yeah. He knows that, doesn't he? Yeah.
Brett, what happened then?
Well, he's a pretty close associate of the previous kid that we checked, and they're both on court-imposed bail with a curfew and just choosing to ignore it. So where he is at the moment, we don't know.
And it's disappointing. I mean, you're trying to give these kids a chance.
Well, even the courts are giving him a chance.
Yeah.
You know, they're committing, you know, high-impact crime. They're giving court-imposed bail. One of the conditions is to be at home at night.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy one to follow.
So he'll be arrested Monday?
Yep, he'll be arrested.
Back into the court system?
Back into the court system.
Juvenile detention?
The magistrates can make a decision on his bail.
Yeah.
It'll be opposed by the police because these are the times when they should be home.
The cycle continues?
Cycle continues, yep.
So we've just heard on the radio that 3 young African men have attacked a woman not far from here. They've attacked her with a hammer and a knife. She's now with the police back at Werribee. Patrol cars are now looking for them, and that's what we're going to do. Police suspect at least one of the boys, who was supposed to be at home under strict curfew conditions, may have been involved in the attack.
And whether he has or hasn't been involved in tonight's armed robbery, he's going to be arrested.
And you seem disappointed too.
Yeah, it is just, well, we've had, you know, we've knocked on a few doors to check the bail compliance of some of these kids, and it's been good. They've been home. And then you have a kid like this who, unfortunately, has been involved in some high-victim crime in the past.
What's he done?
Oh, he's done a fair bit, to be honest.